might be wondering the question, how did you end up getting here? I know sometimes I ask myself that question when I'm in the middle of something. I'm like, oh wow, I just kind of got here. I don't know how I got here. This photo here is actually taken from a mastermind that I was facilitating for a guy called Michael Gerber. He was looking to basically find the future direction that his company was going to head, his legacy. He's an older gentleman, so he's trying to figure out what those next couple of steps look like. And he asked me to lead that. Has anyone heard of the guy, Michael Gerber? Yeah, if you haven't heard of his name, you might have heard of his book, The E-Myth. And he's also, if you've heard of the phrase, working on your business, not in your business, he's the guy who coined that. So The E-Myth has sold, the Wall Street Journal said it was the #1 selling business book of all time. And Inc. magazine basically says that he's the guru to small business. And what I found interesting, here I am in La Jolla in the States, facilitating the future direction of his business. Now, what's probably most interesting is 3 months before this, I hadn't actually spoken to him. He didn't know who I was, and it was just, everything kind of fell into place. And it's funny how things just happen incredibly quickly. So I was trying to think, to tell you the story about how I got to that moment, those serendipitous events. I happen to use a conference call recording thing. So when I make calls, I'll call through this thing that does the call recording. And if I go that 3 months earlier, I'd received an email from someone called Luz Delia Gerber. I didn't know the name Luz Delia, but I knew the surname Gerber. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. And all it said was, call me. And I went, oh, okay, yep. It was about 7 in the morning, so I thought, well, she's in the States, I knew that, so I might as well just call her because it'll be her afternoon. And I got the call recorded, so I thought I might just play with you. I've never chatted with her before, and this is the moment when I called her.
Morning.
Good morning, this is David Jenyns just calling up from Australia. I'm actually after Luz, I think it is.
Oh my God, is this the real David?
Yeah, this is the real David. How are you?
Oh, I am. I just want to cry. Just hold on 1 second. Oh my God. You have no idea. You picking up the phone and calling me is doing to life, to yours and mine.
Oh,
Like none.
That's a good thing. Yes, I know your message came through late last night. I don't know if you know, we're based in Australia, so that's why.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So.
I just finished watching your video.
Oh, fantastic!
One of them, and I was just now looking for it because I wanted to send it to my husband because I've been in a journey this morning since 4:35 my time. I've been in warp time. I mean, I'll tell you how I met you and how I found you, but it's all spiritual. It's all a journey. I'm on the path. And I just knew that I had to talk to you, like now. I just had to have a conversation with you.
Well, good
and
morning.
Then I did my writing and did everything else, and I just dared to say, call me now. I'll go to wherever you are. Come here. I have to talk to you. I need you. I have to talk to you. So thank you. I'm just trying to get over the shock.
What a great way to start my day. How can I help?
Do you know Michael Gerber? Do you know the name? Do you know his work?
Yeah, I've definitely know him and have read the E-Myth Revisited and E-Myth, and yeah, I'm a long time systems advocate.
Beautiful. Well, you don't know have you ever heard him speak?
I have, not live. I've heard him on some podcasts here and there.
The story goes on. It was quite a lengthy call, and it was Michael had just had his 80th birthday, and he was working on the final book in his E-Myth series called Beyond the E-Myth. It was the final book that he planned to write and launch for that. And Luz Delia had seen me launch my book, Authority Content, from over in the States, loved the launch, started to dig into what I was doing, and then she thought, I want this guy to do this for my husband's book. So for the last book, for the first time they decided to self-publish the book. All the previous books had gone through HarperCollins, but this book they wanted to self-publish so they could maintain control and ownership over the rights. So she reached out to me to launch the book. So I came up with this launch plan and basically copied and replicated what I did for my own book launch, and waterfall series of activities that needed to be done by certain dates over a 3-month period. There were literally, in that period of time, I worked on this full time, probably doing 60 hours a week, working on Michael's business, thousands of emails, hundreds of phone calls. It was quite amazing to see how quickly that name would open doors, because I lined up a whole lot of podcast interviews and things like that for him. I'd mentioned Michael Gerber and people would just about fall over themselves to try and do the interview with him. So it was a great experience. The last piece of this, the 3 months went by in a real flash, and I ended up going to the States, to La Jolla, to do the final launch. And Michael was lining up. He has this thing he calls the dreaming room, and it was the one of the last dreaming rooms that he's planning on running in person. So I thought, hey, this is probably a really good opportunity for us to go. I called in some favours from some good friends, Mike Rhodes and Nick Thackralal. Nick, you'll actually see, speaks a little bit later today, and they helped to launch the book as well. Mike was handling the SEM campaign. Nick handled the quiz, and there was another guy, but for some reason I didn't end up getting the photo, so I've just photoshopped him in. Troy Dean was the other guy as well who came along. So we booked this amazing house in at La Jolla, one of those houses that sit by the rocks kind of hanging off the side of the house, and it was just kind of a really nice sort of end to it. Now, rather than me telling you how it went, I'll just show you one more little clip. It only goes for a minute, and this is kind of how it all came to a conclusion.
Months, and he is responsible for the book launch. Tremendous success. Number 29 book of Michael, his 29th book, and the first one that became
an Amazon bestseller in about 24 hours.
Now, and we have spoken every single day. He has kept me online. He's been telling me what to do. I require all of you to become David. Thank you.
And Dave comes from Melbourne, Australia. And he's flown from Melbourne to be here with us. And he's made the commitment out of the blue. Of course, Lou's Dahlia gave him the company, I think. Yeah, I think that's what she did. But apart from that, Dave just stepped up and did it. And I just want to give Dave my deepest thanks, as I've done persistently throughout the process.
So it went really well, and the book did incredibly well, and it did so well at the completion of it, they actually asked me if I wanted to run the company and head up their company. But it wasn't the right time for me. It's not the direction that I was heading. The reason I tell you that story is to get yourself to ask the question, how do things like this happen? How do you go from zero pretty much to hero in a very short space in time? They had no idea about my past. They came to me for the book launch. They had no idea what I was doing with System Hub or any of the system stuff, or that I've been teaching this stuff for ages. They come to me for something else, and the serendipitous way, like the magicalness of that, you can't plan for it. And the lesson here is that life is non-linear. So things don't always happen in a straight line, which is strange. When you think about the world of systems, you think, oh yeah, step 1, this happens, step 2, that happens, step 3, and you're probably thinking that's what we'll talk about. And yes, we'll talk about some of that, but where the real magic happens and the game changer happens when you've got enough space to spot these opportunities. So these non-linear situations, and you've probably had that. Has everybody had that situation where you've been in the right place at the right time, or you've spoken to someone, or you're out and about and you happen to meet someone and they connected you to someone else, and before you knew it, that was your wife or your husband, or like these things just happen in life. Nothing is so linear and that you can structure everything down to a predictable system. That's the takeaway there. So how then do you spot these opportunities? Because these opportunities are going on all the time. Most of the time, the reason people miss these opportunities that are under their nose is because they don't have enough space. There's too much noise going on. If you're the business owner, you're in the middle of the business, you're doing the day-to-day operations, you can't take your foot off the pedal or the eyes off the road, otherwise you're going to crash. So the real key here for the big events that you can't plan for is to create this space. And the way that I've found, the best way that I know how to create space is through systems. And it's simple, I'll use the example, very simple system here, but there's some of the really well-known creative thinkers of our time, you know, your Steve Jobs, your Zuckerberg, Einstein, Obama. There's been quite a few people that have this thing where they all wear the same clothes every day. It's almost like a uniform. And the reason they do that is that they do that so that they don't have to think about in the morning making the decision what they're going to wear. It's a really simple system that helps to increase the space in their brain so they can start to, you know, think about the things that really matter and that are important. And that's what I see systems are doing. What you want to have in your business is all of the basics taken care of, so you as the business owner have enough space to be able to look at the business, spot the opportunities and double down on those. So that's really what I want to try and do for you today is show you how to create that space, to open up in your world the room for those opportunities, because those opportunities are there. You might just not be seeing them. That misconception that systems remove creativity and the serendipity of life, the reverse is true. When you have systems in place, it opens up the opportunities. And I think that's where people kind of get stuck. There's a lot of misconceptions that I want to walk you through today that will help you break through to that next level, so you can, you know, take advantage of those opportunities when they fall in your lap. Because what I didn't tell you in that story is, if I go back probably about 18 months prior to the whole story with Michael Gerber, was I was right in the middle of running our digital agency, Melbourne SEO Services, incredibly stressed out, working 60, 70-hour work weeks, managing all of the team, trying to hold this thing together, and then find out we're going to be pregnant, or we are pregnant, and then I'm going to have a son. And then that for me was a real turning point. I said to myself, I don't want to be that dad who is always too busy to walk the son to school or hang out, or, you know, I live down on the peninsula now, very lucky. I work out from home, and if Nate or Jordan come and knock on the door and they want to play catch during the day, that's okay. Sometimes I'll be on a Zoom call and Nate will come and sit on my lap. And I used to, that would frustrate the hell out of me back in the day, but now I'm kind of realising by creating that space that that's okay. That's the life that I want to create.